You might feel healthy, but your blood pressure could be silently pushing you closer to a stroke without you even knowing it. And worse, the normal numbers you trust might not be as safe as you think. In this video, you'll discover which blood pressure levels are truly dangerous, even when the monitor says normal. Stay until the end of the video because I'll show you the early warning sign, the one that, if ignored, could cost you dearly. Part 1. Blood pressure, the silent threat in the shadows. There is a killer that walks among us in everyday life, not with guns or visible wounds. It moves quietly like grains in an hourglass, flowing silently until one day everything runs out. This killer is high blood pressure, a condition that seems ordinary, yet claims hundreds of thousands of lives each year in the United States. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, nearly 1 in 2 adults in the U.S., about 122 million people, are living with high blood pressure. More alarming, only around 24% of them have their blood pressure under control. Each year, high blood pressure is a primary cause or contributing factor in over 670,000 deaths in the U.S. Why is such a common condition so dangerous? Because high blood pressure doesn't hurt. It doesn't make you feverish. It doesn't cause daily dizziness. It operates in silence, like roots digging deep underground. That's what makes it the perfect enemy. You still work, drive, laugh with loved ones, while inside, blood pressure is silently damaging your brain, heart, and kidneys. The CDC calls it the silent killer, because by the time you notice, it's often after a stroke, a heart attack, or an emergency that almost ends your life. So, what numbers are considered dangerous? According to the American Heart Association, AHA, what makes blood pressure dangerous is the gray zone in between, when you're not technically sick, but no longer healthy. A reading of 128/78 seems fine, probably just stress today, but with each moment of denial, blood pressure is redrawing the map of your arteries. The real problem isn't high blood pressure, it's not knowing you have it. According to the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, NHANES, about 20% of Americans with high blood pressure don't know they have it until serious complications arise. That means 1 in 5 people live as if they're fine, while each heartbeat brings them closer to a stroke or heart attack. They don't check their blood pressure. They ignore doctors' warnings. They believe, if I don't feel anything, it must be fine. Until one morning, they wake up unable to move half their body, or collapse before family, unable to speak a word. We've grown used to seeing blood pressure as a harmless number, but in reality, it's the key that predicts the future of your heart, brain, and life. You may check your phone 50 times a day, but when was the last time you checked your blood pressure? Part 2. When high blood pressure calls your name, don't wait until your body answers. Some clocks count down, not up. For people over 55, high blood pressure isn't a vague risk, it's a ticking time bomb. Did you know, according to the CDC, National Health and Aging Trend Study, in the U.S., nearly 2 in 3 people over age 60 have high blood pressure? That's more than 66.7% of the older population. And these aren't just numbers. They're our parents, friends, and caregivers now living under the constant threat of a silent explosion named high blood pressure. One brain, the betrayed command center. The brain stores memory, controls movement, and directs life. But when blood pressure rises, its tiny vessels are the first targets. High blood pressure is the leading risk factor for stroke in adults over 55. When blood pushes too hard through fragile vessels, walls harden and narrow. Plaque builds up. Stroke risk doubles for every 10 millimeter mercury rise. Result: ischemic or hemorrhagic stroke within seconds. 77% of first-time stroke patients had high blood pressure. Stroke is the 5th leading cause of death in the U.S., mainly in people over 60. You could be walking, reading, talking, and suddenly your body goes numb, words vanish, memories fade, all because you ignored a 160/100 reading. 2. Heart. Aging faster under constant strain. Your heart is a pump that never rests. After 55, it begins to change. Walls thicken. Beats slow. Stress response weakens. High blood pressure forces the heart to work twice as hard to push blood through stiffening vessels. According to the AHA, 80% of heart failure cases in seniors are linked to a history of high blood pressure. Signs start small. Breathless climbing stairs. Heavy heartbeat under slight effort. Mild swelling in your feet at night. One day, you're on oxygen, taking diuretics, unable to leave the couch for more than 10 minutes. 3. Kidneys, the fragile blood filters. Rarely mentioned, the kidneys are among the first organs damaged, especially in seniors. Each kidney contains over 1 million filtering units called nephrons. High blood pressure slowly destroys them, reduces filtering ability, triggers a vicious cycle that raises blood pressure even more, leads to chronic kidney disease requiring lifelong dialysis or transplant. In the U.S., 1 in 3 seniors with kidney disease also have high blood pressure. Source: National Kidney Foundation, 2023. You can live without teeth, but not without your kidneys. When they fail, your life depends on a dialysis machine and a bloodline connection. 4. High blood pressure doesn't speak, but it never leaves. Feeling nothing doesn't mean nothing's wrong. You may test your blood sugar, cholesterol, get x-rays, but if you're not checking blood pressure, you're ignoring one of the strongest predictors of lifespan. A person with 135/85 may already have organ damage. A 55-year-old with uncontrolled hypertension is 3 times more likely to die early. Living with greater than or equal to 160/100 for 10 years guarantees damage to the brain, heart, and kidneys. Don't let life leak out of your body without you knowing. Imagine your body as a house. High blood pressure is like small cracks in the wall. First, fine lines, then wider gaps, then mold, then collapse. You don't wait for the house to fall to fix it, so don't wait for hospitalization to check your blood pressure. If you're feeling anxious, good. But don't panic. Every problem has a way out. Up next, we'll cover the most important part: how to manage blood pressure over 55 and live well with it. Part 3. Take action. Control blood pressure before it controls you. At 55 plus, you can't gamble with your health. Your heart isn't what it used to be. Every heartbeat is a message. Take care of me before it's too late. The good news? High blood pressure is not a life sentence. You can live with it and live well if you act at the right time in the right way. 1. Learn to read blood pressure. It's not just numbers. Don't panic at 130/85. It doesn't label you as sick. It's a reminder to adjust. Understand 2 key numbers: systolic, top, pressure when the heart pumps; diastolic, bottom, pressure when the heart rests. I will explain the parameters in more detail for you to understand. 1. Normal blood pressure. If your blood pressure is below 120/80, that means it's in the ideal range. You should maintain a healthy lifestyle, eat balanced meals, stay active, and get enough rest. 2. Elevated blood pressure. when the top number is between 120 and 129, but the bottom number is still under 80. This is a warning sign. It's time to cut back on salt, eat more vegetables, and exercise regularly. Third stage 1, high blood pressure. If your reading is 130 to 139 over 80 to 89, this level can start to affect your heart and organs if left untreated. You should consult a doctor. They may recommend lifestyle changes or even medication. Fourth stage. 2. High blood pressure. When your numbers are 140 or higher, or 90 or higher, this is considered dangerous. You may need medication and close monitoring to prevent serious issues like stroke or heart failure. Fifth hypertensive crisis. If your blood pressure is over 180 over 120, this is an emergency situation. You must call emergency services or go to the hospital immediately. Do not wait or self-medicate. Final note: one high reading isn't enough to diagnose high blood pressure. Track it regularly over time and bring your records to the doctor. 2. Home monitoring. Right time, right way. You can't improve what you don't measure. Peter Drucker. Before measuring, rest 5 minutes seated. No caffeine, alcohol, or smoking for 30 minutes. No talking, movement, or stress. Position. Sit upright, feet flat, arm at heart level, cuff directly on skin, 2 to 3 centimeters above elbow. Best times to measure: morning, before eating, meds; evening, before bed. Take 2 to 3 readings per session, 1 minute apart, and average them. Use a logbook or app to record results. Helpful for your doctor. Home monitoring reduces white coat hypertension, especially in older adults. 3. Lifestyle changes, the strongest medicine. Not all medicine comes in a bottle. Most success comes from how you live daily. Eat-Style, DASH, equals dietary approaches to stop hypertension, recommended by the AHA. Do eat veggies, fruits, whole grains. Add potassium, magnesium, calcium, bananas, sweet potatoes, yogurt, salmon. Stay hydrated. Limit. Sodium, 1,500 milligrams per day, 2/3 teaspoon. Processed foods, canned items, snacks. Sugar, alcohol, soda. NIH found DASH reduced systolic BP by 11 millimeters of mercury in 2 weeks. 4. Move gently but consistently. Movement is the language of life. Your heart thrives with gentle, regular activity. At least 150 minutes per week moderate, walk, bike, swim. Or 75 minutes per week, vigorous. Add yoga, meditation, deep breathing to reduce stress. At 55 plus, start with a 15-minute morning walk, more powerful than any pill. 5th, sleep well. Stay calm. Stabilize internal pressure. Sleep is more than rest. It's repair time for vessels and stress hormones. Get 7 to 8 hours nightly. Avoid screens and bad news before bed. Practice slow breathing. Each breath calms the heart. 6. When to start medication. If lifestyle changes don't work after 3 to 6 months, your doctor may prescribe meds. Common meds for 55 plus thiazide diuretics reduce blood volume. Calcium channel blockers reduce vessel tension. ACE inhibitors or ARBs. But remember, medication can't replace lifestyle, only support it. Discipline is your real cure. Your journey starts with a monitor and a decision. High blood pressure won't disappear overnight. But step by step, you can regain control over your heartbeat. Check BP every morning, log results, listen to your body, eat clean, walk daily. Sleep deeply, love yourself properly. Blood pressure is not just a number. It's a mirror of your heart, your brain, and your future. Don't let its silence fool you. Check your blood pressure today. If this video helped you, share it with someone over 55. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to help each other stay balanced, day by day, beat by beat.